Let's talk about supporting kids at recess. I'm Zeba from Kindergarten Cafe, and I'm going to give you all my tips for handling those problems with kids at recess, with kids saying I'm bored, the constant behavior problems and fights happening. I've got all the tips for you today. I have noticed in the growing past number of years an increasing number of behavior problems at recess, of kids saying they're bored, of conflicts, and it only got 100 times worse with COVID and kids not practicing playing with other kids, kids not interacting with other kids as much. And so I worked to create this curriculum and these resources to help my students based on lessons that I was already doing with them in the classroom and other lessons that I realized they needed to help them be more supported at recess, to be more successful at recess. So let's get started. The kids coming to you saying they're bored. Kids don't know what to do with themselves when they have unstructured time. Especially the kids in my school, in my community, they are over scheduled, and they are overscheduled in structured activities with an adult-led activity, karate class, swimming, skating, math class, language class, art class, whatever. Every day there's something. And so they literally don't know what to do when they're bored or what to do when they're just given a chunk of time with no one saying, here's what you need to do. And so, in addition to that, technology has made it worse as well, because when they do have that unstructured time, oftentimes they're using technology device. So they're not being inventive, creative with the world around them. Not to say they're not being inventive on the computer or whatever, but they're not looking at the world around them and using their imagination in their play. So how do we solve that problem for them? Well, first is children need to be introduced to the playground, whether it's kindergarten or beyond, that you have new kids in your class every year that aren't familiar with it. They need to know what their choices are. What are their options for recess? What can they play? So at the beginning of the year, I take my students on the playground and we go over the different parts of the structure. And when we talk about the structure, we talk about what kids are playing on it, what maybe they'll want to play on it, ideas for games and stuff to play. And we make even like a whole list of games they can play on this. If they're not playing on the structure and they're playing on the pavement or in the grass, like what are some games that they can play? And this really helps them think of things to do instead of coming to teachers and saying, I'm bored, right? And also, the recess staff that are outside with them all the time have these games in their back pockets to lead as well, so that they can lead group games with the kids. So automatically right there, having kids know what their options are and what to play and how to play it will eliminate so many behavior problems, because so many behavior problems happen when kids just don't know what to do and they are bored. And when they are bored, behaviors happen, right? So this will automatically eliminate a ton of behaviors. But there's even more that we can teach our students. We want to teach our students about being able to initiate play with others and invite others to play with them. And my kid-friendly terms for that is askers and includers. So what I mean by an asker is someone asking to join to play, initiating play with someone, asking to join their game, right? And so it is brave. We talk about this with the kids. It is brave to ask to play. And that when someone is asking you to play, it's polite, it's nice, it's kind to be an includer, to include them in the play, to say yes. I have had in the past many issues of behavior problems and problems with friends that have happened because the kids said, can I play with you? And the kids said yes, and then they ran away. Or they didn't say anything. They just started running away. And so the kid that asked would come to me and be like, but I asked them to play, and then they just ran away. And the other kid would say, well, I was playing tag. You should have started running. how did they know to start running? Right? So I teach my students that includers don't just say yes, they say yes and. Yes, and they give some information about what they're playing or what the role of the person that's asking could be. Yes, and we're playing on the swings. Yes, and we're playing tag. So and so is it. Yes, and floor is lava. Quick, get off the ground. Important information, right? Yes, and you can join this team for soccer, right? And I do talk about if you're asking to play, you can't really be picky. You can't just be like, actually, we're going to change up the rules and we're just going to play this instead. No, you're joining a game that's already in progress. You're going to have to be flexible and join their game the way they, invite you to play, right? If you want to change the rules, you have to ask to, if you can't just come in and say, nope, we're doing it this way, or no, I'm not playing on the swings, I'm playing tag, but you asked to join them on the swings, right? So that's all the sort of nuances that we talk about with my students, because they go through all these different scenarios at recess time. In addition, teaching the includers that a really good includer is not just accepting people when they ask to join, but it's also watching, right? And a lot of students, especially young students or students with special needs, will just sort of stand on the sidelines and watch because they don't have the language yet to ask to join. Hopefully, after this lesson, they will have the language to join, but they might not because they might not be there developmentally yet. And so they might just be watching from the sidelines. And so a really good includer is aware of the kids that are just standing by, that aren't playing with anyone, that are just watching, instead of being annoyed by them like hovering and watching, which happens all the time. That's another huge behavior conflict on the playground, is someone being annoyed that someone's just hovering when that person actually just really wanted to play and didn't know how to say it, right? And so this eliminates a lot of behavior conflicts as well, because you're teaching them that if they're hovering, they might actually want to play with you. They just might not have the words to say. So if someone's standing nearby you, if someone's watching you, if someone's not sitting by themselves, if they're not playing with anyone, you can ask them, do you want to play with us? And give the information. We're playing on the swings. Do you want to play with us? And the person could say yes because they're interested in playing what you're inviting them to do, or they might say no, and it's not a reflection of you, the includer. It just might be that they don't like the game you're playing, right? And so I talk about that too, because kids will take it personally. Like, well, I asked them to play. Well, they might not want to play that game, and that's okay. So askers and includers are a huge topic and lesson that I teach my students so that all students can practice initiating play and welcoming others into their play and just being making friends and solving conflict and all of that. And it's something we come back to day after day after day in my kindergarten classroom. The next lesson that we teach, and that again comes up all the time, is this lesson on welcoming and not welcoming. So we talk about our body language, our nonverbal communication. So we talk about how our bodies and our faces are always talking for us without our words. And we do this with the way we're looking, the way we're smiling or frowning, the way our hands are, our bodies are, the way our voice sounds can convey if we are being welcoming or not welcoming. And when we are being includers or askers, we want to always be showing welcoming body language. Because if someone asks to play and you're like, yeah, I guess, yeah. It's not welcoming, right? And we go through all these scenarios. It doesn't make someone feel good. It doesn't make them feel like they really are included, right? And a big one that I don't have a picture of here, but a big topic we talk about is whispering, right? And we talk about how if two people are whispering and you're right nearby, or you're asking them something and then they go and whisper, it's actually very not welcoming. A lot of them think that the whispering is welcoming because it's like two friends whispering, but actually it's not welcoming to the other people, because usually people think they're talking about them when they're whispering, right? So they think it's a bad thing. And all this stuff that is sort of obvious to us as adults, it feels like, well, that's how I always feel. Like, I don't need to explain that. We do need to explain that to kids explicitly about what it means to be welcoming, why we should be welcoming to other students, because they don't know that. They have a hard time thinking about the other people's perspectives. They have a hard time realizing that, oh, if I'm whispering, that person might think it's about them, and it was not about them at all, right? They might not realize that the other people around them might think, oh, that seems like they're talking about me. They don't like me. They're making fun of me. Like, the kids aren't thinking about other kids at all. They're thinking about just them. And so it's important to explicitly teach them what it means and why, and then practice it with them. Another lesson that we talk about a lot is making a play plan with other friends. How do two friends come to an idea of what they want to play? You're probably going to have to compromise. And so what does it mean to compromise? How do you compromise? And we go through different scenarios. I love teaching rocks, paper, scissors, shoot, because it's just the perfect way to decide, well, who gets to do what first, or who gets to do what today. And we talk about how you can say, well, you can go first, or you can go today, but I'll go tomorrow. I'll go next recess. Or you can find a way to compromise that involves combining ideas and being creative like that. And it might not be exactly the plan you had in mind, the idea you had in mind for play, but it is a way to play with your friend where everyone can be happy with what you're playing. And how you have to stick with that plan. When you make a plan, you compromise, you come up with an idea, you can't just change it halfway. You can't just start making different rules. Like, you guys all agreed to the plan, so that is what we're going to stick with. And of course, this means we're all going to have to be flexible. This is my motion with my kids for being flexible, kind of like waves, right? Moving your body as flexibly as I can, making waves, right? Going with the flow. Being flexible. So we talk about this all the time, what it means to be flexible, but this is an example in their play about needing to be flexible with each other. But of course, conflicts still come up all the time, and kids need to know how to solve it independently. They need to know how to solve these conflicts on their own. A lot of times we talk about the other kid doesn't even know that what they're doing is bothering you. You don't like that they started playing baby when you were playing store. So just tell them. They don't know that that's bothering you. Use a bug and a wish is what we use in my classroom. It is the best sentence frame for conflict resolution that I've found for the kids. It bugs me when they have to say what it is that bothers them, because the person might not know. And I wish you would. What do you want them to do? Now, usually at a young age in kindergarten, it's always stop. But the higher level thinking of it, the next level of this is being a little more specific. Like, I wish you would stick with our plan we made. I wish you would ask first before switching to baby. I wish you would ask for my marker instead of grabbing it, right? It's a little more specific than just stop. But for now, stop is fine too. So teaching them skills for dealing with conflict is key so that they can solve them on their own. And then when they come to you and say, well, this happened, blah, blah, oh, did you use a bug and a wish? Oh, go tell them. Go tell them. Okay, you've got it, right? And then it's usually solved. Usually that's it, right? Occasionally you have to jump in and help a little bit more, but once they have the words to use to solve their own conflicts, they're good. So all of these lessons and more, and then some, come from my Supporting Kids at Recess social emotional curriculum. You can buy it in the link below from my Teachers by Teachers shop. And you can get all of these awesome activities with lesson plans, parent letters, activities, posters, resources, and then some. And these are the exact lessons and activities that I use in my classroom with my students, and they have been so helpful for avoiding conflict at recess, initiating play, not being bored, resolving behavior problems, all of that. I have used this K1 and 2. So I highly recommend trying it out if you're seeing problems with your students at recess. Comment below, reach out to me on Instagram, send me an email if you have any other questions about supporting kids at recess. If you have any specific problems that your kids are always having, I love to problem solve. So reach out to me and let me know. And I'll see you in the next video.